Lara Croft, hero, survivor, icon. Now, after 17 years and more than 35 million copies sold worldwide, Tomb Raider has been reborn. Tonight, we'll meet the new Lara Croft, Camilla Luddington, and talk with the designers and composer who have reimagined a legend. From rewriting the origins of Lara Croft to creating a whole new tale of survival, we take an inside look at what the Today Show, the VGAs, Forbes, and Yahoo have called one of this year's most anticipated games. It's a new era for an enduring franchise. This is Tomb Raider: The Final Hours, a story of survival. Hey, Jeff Keighley here, and welcome to GTTV Presents Tomb Raider: The Final Hours, a story of survival. Coming up, we'll meet the creators and take an inside look at one of the most anticipated games of this year. Luckily, I do have some help tonight. You've seen her on Grey's Anatomy, Californication, and True Blood, and now she is the new Lara Croft. Camilla Luddington, thanks for inviting me to your forest here on Yamata.
My Leia, yes, you're welcome.
So you got this role of Lara Croft, which obviously is incredible, but how did you get it?
Well, it was 3 auditions, and I remember hearing that the project was called Cryptids. I did not know that it was Tomb Raider, and the character's name was Sarah. And I went thinking that the character breakdown kind of sounded like Lara Croft, so I actually wore
You were
shorts.
on to them.
Yeah, I wore shorts and boots in. And in the last audition, I remember they watched us and filmed us running and jumping and crawling and stumbling just to see our motions.
So when you finally found out this was Lara Croft and you got this role,
yes,
I mean, you must have gone crazy.
To have gotten the role of such an iconic British video game character was completely overwhelming.
Well, tonight is the night, and Tomb Raider is certainly a storied franchise with a rich history. Here's a trip down memory lane with Tomb Raider.
If I had to describe Tomb Raider in one word, it would be epic.
17 years ago, Tomb Raider exploded onto the scene and changed the gaming industry overnight.
The game itself was like taking the 2D games that we were used to and playing in these 3D spaces.
I believed. When I was in Tomb Raider, I was down in caves, I was doing what I was doing, and it was absolutely beautiful.
But it wasn't just the graphics, it was the gameplay that changed the gaming landscape.
It was this nice balance between combat and exploration.
Gamers also connected with the game's hero. The female adventurer bucked industry conventions to become a gaming icon.
She's strong, she's tough, she's athletic, she's a beautiful woman. She stands the test of time.
She is the most iconic female character in video games.
You just see Lara Croft as part of popular culture, and she has taken a life on beyond video games. She's iconic.
What made Tomb Raider so wildly successful and addictive was dynamic traversal, desperate combat, and a smart, resourceful heroine, Lara Croft. These were the 3 pillars the developers at Crystal set out to embrace. But one thing was clear: it was time to shake things up. This would be a Tomb Raider for a new generation.
When all seemed lost, I knew what I must become.
I'm here at Crystal Dynamics with Carl Stewart, the global brand director on this rebirth of Tomb Raider. Tell me about the conception of this as an origin story.
You know, for us, taking a step back and looking at who this character is, it was all about bringing her to life for today's audience. And it always harked back to, what if this was her first adventure? What if this was the opportunity to reimagine Lara Croft?
Was the stuff that like Chris Nolan did with Batman, was that an inspiration to sort of say, hey, we want to start from scratch?
Yeah, you know, the first 20, 30 minutes, it wasn't about Batman. It was about a man who was flawed. That sort of showed us how you could build upon a character and then reimagine it halfway through and people would actually have a connection.
I'm here with Daryl Gallagher, the head of studio. Tell us a bit about your vision when you started on this new Tomb Raider 4 years ago.
Humanizing Lara was a big goal, making it feel like that she could be somebody that you knew, make it more of a mature take on the genre, but at the same time, this was about that character-defining journey that turns it into the Tomb Raider at the end.
Obviously there is some risk in that you guys are changing the game up a little bit. I mean, is there any trepidation about how people will respond to this?
I think there always is. We knew that from day one. You know, if we had gone down the road of just trying to please everybody by doing the same thing we've always done, then Tomb Raider would have just been sort of put aside and another franchise would have been looked at. And we spent a lot of time making sure that it still feels like a Tomb Raider game no matter what happens.
I'm here with Brian Horton, the art director on Tomb Raider. There's obviously a long history of Lara Croft's, and you wanted to do something different, though.
Absolutely. We looked at this as, all right, how does a 21-year-old version of Lara look? So we went through 40, 50 pieces of concept art to try to figure out what that would look like. So we finally nailed the look that we had. So what we tried to do is find the essence of who she was and just boil that down to a much more believable package.
Well, when you start this game, I mean, you know, there's the shipwreck, the Endurance, Laura's on this island, and I mean, it really is like she's learning how to survive.
Yeah, she is, as you said. So she starts with nothing. She ends up getting a bow for the first time, and she has to kill a deer because she's hungry.
Sorry.
So when we get to the first human kill, she's done this for the first time. She's got to do it many more times by the end of this game. And she's not going to be the same person she was when she first started out.
Sam, listen, I'm gonna get you out of there.
So the idea of the Endurance crew members and being able to interact with them all throughout the adventure was important to us. So all that stuff feeds into our whole character progression.
At the end of the day, she's got to become Lara Croft.
You can do it, Lara.
In order to get to that moment, you have to see the personal side to her.
After all, you're a Croft.
You have to really understand her.
You just don't know it yet.
What is that moment? How does she become Lara Croft?
Yeah, so I can't spoil it.
Right.
You know, you gotta play it.
Spoiler alert, this gal has a new pair of shoes that kicks major scavenger butt. Find out what it took to step into the role of the iconic Lara Croft.
This was the most emotionally and physically draining work that I'd ever done.
Next. Hey, welcome back to Tomb Raider: The Final Hours, a story of survival. I'm Jeff Keighley from Game Trailers TV, joined by the new Lara Croft herself, Camilla Luddington. So you auditioned to get this role, you get it. How did you go about becoming this new, more realistic Lara?
Well, I think what was nice for me is that it's a reboot of the franchise. So I really wasn't having to go back and look at another performance and match that or even compare myself to that. I had creative, artistic license in making Lara me. And I think that for me personally, it was my first video game. So I was kind of naive walking in, just like she is when she lands on the island. And with my own experience, as it grew over the 3 years of making the game, her own experience on the island grows. So I kind of felt like we went on this journey together. And again, I could kind of make Lara my own.
All right, well, why don't you guys take a look for yourselves at the brand new Lara Croft.
Mayday! Mayday! This is Lara Croft of the Endurance. We are stranded on an island.
This Lara is completely different. Crystal is taking her back to her origins, and we're starting with a girl who's naive and passionate and very adventurous.
I'd finally set out to make my mark.
I was just excited for the physical and emotional challenge of playing this new reimagining of Lara Croft.
Lara Croft of the Endurance. We are stranded on an island in the Dragon's Triangle.
You see in Lara's first kill, it's something that she really struggles with. She's backed into a corner. It's literally a matter of life and death. With this game, we've given her so much heart. You're starting to genuinely care for her, and we're really seeing her evolution over time and her moral compass change when she's being put in such extreme circumstances. And something that I feel that I'm bringing differently as an actress to this is that I get to do the motion capture and the voice, which has never been done before.
All right, let's do this.
This is Noah Hughes, the creative director on the brand new Tomb Raider. Let's talk about mocap, because you do some big action moments in mocap, but you also do, a lot of intimate scenes.
Roth, please come and get me.
Easy, we're regrouping at my location.
We really played with a virtual camera to get an organic feel and make you feel like even as a viewer, you were kind of there with them. Part of the goal of bringing out Lara and really getting inside her head benefited from a style that was able to frame Lara in such a way that you were very close to her.
Got to find them.
This was some of the most emotionally and physically draining work that I'd ever done. When I got this role at first, I did not even know that I would be crying so much, or even hurt. I just thought I'd be kicking butt.
Camilla was a trooper, I'll put it that way. She went through a lot to get some of the shots that we needed to get. And the facial was probably the hardest thing to pull off, to really capture that human emotion on Lara's face.
You're wearing a helmet with a camera right here, and you're having to do these scenes that are so emotionally draining and ignore all those things. You're using your imagination so much. It was an incredible challenge.
A survivor is born. Lara takes no names or prisoners as she targets the island's scavengers.
You can't save everyone.
There's no other choice. I've got to do this.
And hear all the bells and whistles of the instrument that gives voice to the island. Next. Hey guys, welcome back to our behind-the-scenes look at the brand new Tomb Raider game. Now, previous games had you on the hunt for wild treasures and ancient relics, but for the new Lara Croft, the stakes have never been higher. Well, still with us is a born survivor, the new Lara Croft herself, Camilla Luddington. How did this survival concept grow your character?
This is the first life and death situation that Lara's ever been in. She realizes that her friends and herself are being hunted, and that really changes everything for her.
I'm sure that affected your performance because over the game she grows much more confident.
There was a conversation that was constantly going back and forth between myself and the directors and writers. So they would give me context as to where Lara was emotionally and physically in the game. I've done lots of TV at this point, and you spend hours upon hours on one scene concentrating that and then having a break and then going and filming a different scene. With a game, you have a camera right in front of your head. There's not lots of set changes, so you're going from highs and lows constantly.
Well, thankfully, you made it through, and now it's time for the fans to get through the game. Here's a look at exactly what it takes to survive and conquer the brand new Tomb Raider.
If I don't survive, none of us will.
Let's talk about the idea of survival.
Yeah.
This phrase, a survivor is born.
We were very attracted to that idea of survival as a situation that would force Lara to grow as a character. We looked at real-world human survival stories featured in movies like 127 Hours. When you look at someone like Aaron Ralston cutting off his own arm to free himself, what was interesting to us is you see a force of will and an endurance that in some ways reminded us of Lara as a character, and if she doesn't progress as a character, she's going to die on this island.
Well, as she starts to progress, there's a series of pieces of gear that you acquire. You're looking at climbing axes to bows and arrows to pistols, machine guns, shotguns. But what really starts to take firm grasp in the mind of a gamer is, how can I use this for more than just directly shooting? Solving problems with a shotgun at first is just about killing enemies, and later you're like, can I use this to actually ungate places I couldn't get to before?
You get skill points and salvage that you can use to upgrade her gear, upgrade herself. So she gets a more capable set of equipment for you to actually get through this journey.
It starts to feel a lot more like what you would imagine a resourceful girl to look like, and she's just fighting to survive.
As Lara builds her will to survive, it's the sounds of the island that build an eerie tension, bringing the island of Yamatai to life. Right now I'm here with Jason Graves, who's the composer of this rebirth of Tomb Raider. How did you get involved in this project?
I got a call from Crystal Dynamics, and they were looking for a new, innovative approach for the music.
It really feels like you started from scratch with this game.
There was no baggage or responsibility to bring from the past games, just completely clean slate, and allowed me to be even more creative. That was one of the things that was really intriguing from the beginning. I started with the construction elements around my studio. There was a dumpster outside, and I was banging on that and recording it. So I called Crystal and said, how about we build something that would be unique to the game and give us some really cool sounds.
All right, Jason, so this is the instrument. You actually use this for the game. This was a big part of the score.
Yeah, it's featured throughout the score. And there's a lot of really specific sounds you could recognize. So we've got the three essential pieces that are conveying the characters in the game. This is called the vessel.
Right.
Scavengers, scary, screechy, metal. We've got the pipes back here, which is the Oni. Very kind of meditative and chime-like. And of course, the bowls, which represent the island. The coolest thing about this is it's made to be played. So let's invoke the spirit of the island.
All right.
Hit it. Crystal was very specific about the character arc that Lara would go through. We wanted it to be a slow and steady build to the end. And then you get the payoff at the end of the game. That's when you get the big epic, like, yeah, that's the theme. I can't wait to play the next one.
From epic high-octane moments to the addition of multiplayer. Coming up, it's the things that make you go, oh my... You're back watching Tomb Raider: The Final Hours, a story of survival. Tomb Raider's cinematic gameplay is like stepping into a blockbuster movie, having to fight off enemies with a bow and arrow while ziplining off a cliff, all to jump into a helicopter. Who better to ask about all the action than Camilla Luddington? So when I see something like, you know, Lara like jumping for the helicopter, you did that stunt?
With a mat in
Okay.
place. Yeah, so I don't actually break anything, but I do remember my first day actually showing up and not knowing how physical it would necessarily be. And I thought, oh my God, I got completely beaten up today. And I was lying in the bath and I thought, I have to do some sort of training. So I actually did circuit training while I was filming just to help loosen me up. And I knew I had to up my game, basically, the next day.
All right, well, let's take a look at Camilla in action and a look at the people behind the game who brought Lara Croft to life. Right now, I'm here with Kyle Peschel, the producer of Tomb Raider. There's one group here that we should talk about, the OMS team. What does that stand for?
OMS is short for Oh My. Early on in this game, we talked about what makes an experience that draws you in. Whether it's massive explosions, or whether it's these like close and intimate moments.
You're a Croft.
I don't think I'm that kind of Croft.
You're just stunned by that moment and just say, oh my.
That's awesome.
So when you have a moment in our game where she's down a water slide, past propeller blades, into a hole of a plane, and then she's left dangling over a cliff, in that moment, OMS is about the glass slowly cracking and telling you as the player that you know more than what she knows at that moment.
Now, you've got a great team here that's working on this game. Tell me about, you know, everyone banding together to try and make this great.
It's so spectacular to sit down and to see something expressed on screen and then to say, you know, it'd be cooler if, and everybody's actually listening. I think people forget we're fans of Lara Croft. We want to see her get her due. And to be part of a team that's building that, the guys that we work with are awesome.
And for the first time in the game's 17-year history, Tomb Raider is finally going multiplayer. What did you want to do with the multiplayer for this game?
It was important to us to bring a lot of our single-player sensibilities into that multiplayer experience. So traps, things like a snare trap, which strings you upside down and you actually have to fight from there. Lightning rods that you can set up, and if the enemy comes close to them, they'll get struck by lightning. We also brought over the traversal mechanics like the climbing axe and the zip lines.
This is not a game where you have, you know, 8 Laras running around on the same map. You have different survivors you can actually play in the multiplayer.
You got the scavengers who live on the island and the survivors who crash there, trying to basically just survive in this hostile island environment. If they don't work together, they're not going to survive. It feels almost life and death at times. The stakes are really high.
The extraordinary is in what we do, not who we are.
I think what's kept Tomb Raider and Lara Croft in the limelight this whole time is that she's timeless, right? She doesn't seem to age, and she's not out of date. Like some characters will go out of date after 17 years, but she's still hip, she's still cool.
She's now up there with Pac-Man and Super Mario.
It's difficult to think of a female lead that's more important to us in the video game industry.
All right, that's going to do it for us, but if this made you eager to pick up the game, Tomb Raider is in stores right now. Camilla Luddington, before we go, any last words of wisdom to our fans?
Don't leave your friends behind and don't forget to explore.
Excellent. Fantastic advice. Camilla, thanks for joining us. I'm Jeff Keighley. We'll see you guys online. To learn more about the making of Tomb Raider, check out the full Final Hours Tomb Raider app on iTunes.